Hello, I'm John from MERIDA, and this is a bit of a tech deep dive on the 5th generation of Reacto that we've just launched. Now it's not going to be a particularly polished video, but there's so many interesting kind of technical things going on here that I think it's really worth looking into a few of them. Now I should say that I'm not an engineer, I'm not an aerodynamicist, I'm not a product manager, but there are some really cool things that I've learned while we've been on this launch. Now, of course, making the bike more aerodynamic was one of the key focuses of what we did with the Reacto 5. We didn't want to add any weight, and we also didn't want to make it any less comfortable. It needs to be a really good all-round bike as well as a fast aero bike. So we might as well start with weight and ignore all these sort of cool things here. So shaving weight out of the bike, not a particularly easy task, especially when you're trying to add in new aerodynamic features. It's very much a case of you take from one thing, you add to another thing. It's basically a big the wind's really got up. It's a big balancing act as to where you remove weight, and then it allows you to add it back in. And also, we didn't want to make a bike that was going to handle really badly, because that's not really the MERIDA way. So one key area we located where we could find quite a lot of weight saving was the seat post, and also get some aero gains into the bargain. So if you see here, this is the new seat post, substantially thinner, quite a bit lighter too, and this is the old post. As you can see, how we've done that is the old post used to have the Di2 mounted in here, but no longer. The Di2 battery now actually mounts in the bottom bracket here, and it's covered with this rather neat little cover. That's basically allowed us to remove almost 100 grams out of the complete system, and it is like for like. So there's a new clamping mechanism which is a lot lighter. It now clamps down from the back of the post rather than using this expanding wedge, and just the weight difference between these two pieces is again quite substantial. So, and of course, having the thinner seat post meant that it's a little bit more aerodynamic. We've also updated a few other little key things. On this one, changing the saddle angle, bit of a pain, you have to kind of remove this bit. Whereas now there's a little rubber bit, so if you do quick adjustments you can change that. If you need to do more in-depth fettling, you actually remove this entire cover with a 2.5mm Allen screw. I'll flash the weight savings up on the screen right about now. You might have seen this contraption here. So we use this to test it in the wind tunnel, and when we're testing in the wind tunnel we use the Tour magazine protocol, which is basically a dummy with legs. It pedals at I think 84 RPM. The wheels spin round at 45 kilometers, or to match a speed of 45 kilometers an hour, and that's also matched with a wind speed of 45 kilometers an hour. And it's a bit more of a real-world test because, you know, it takes the legs into account. So the process that we use to start is that basically we come up with a candidate shape, like for an aerofoil. We test that in CFD, so computational fluid dynamics, on the computer, and then we've narrowed it down to some stuff that we're interested in. We go and test it in the real world. Now, changing stuff on the computer, kind of easy enough, lots of processing power, and we should give a shout out to our partners over in Reynolds who gave us some assistance with the CFD. They've got an excellent amount of expertise in, you know, what performs well, especially with crosswind behaviour, which is something we're really interested in to make the Reacto a really balanced bike. So, wind tunnel time is expensive. You don't want to be spending all with changing one model to another, setting the dummy up and doing that. So we've created this, which is the modular wind tunnel test jig. As you can see, it's actually quite a heavy lump, and it's based on these extruded aluminium pieces. They're all bolted together, and then, this is the cool part, we can bolt on or off different kind of shapes, add that to that, and see which performs. It reduces the amount of time that you need to change things really, really quickly. And you can see here, there's one kind of, let's call it a vestigial design feature. So with the down tube, and here's the complete final frame, you notice that this is a lot thinner than this. And that is basically because you want to channel that airflow around your water bottle, or a lot of people do that. So to do that, you have a much wider down tube, or you can try a much wider down tube. The slight problem with that is that whether you're running a bottle or not, it means that your bike is always going to be more draggy, because that wider section there is always going to add more drag. So our engineers thought, well, why are we redesigning the bike to be slower all the time when we could redesign the bottle to be faster? So that's what we have here. It's a very early prototype, 3D printed. These will probably be available later half of the year. And the bottle's much, much slimmer, integrates really nicely with the frame. You can fit it in 2 different positions. You can fit 2 of them as well. And the thing that's really cool about this is that A, the aero bottle stands up on its own, magic, and B, this cage will actually fit a normal style bottle as well. So if you don't have your aero bottle to hand, or you've lost it or whatever, you can just fit a normal bottle. Really cunning bit of kit. Like I say, all the kind of cool shapes that they tested. So if you're familiar with the old Reacto, this design feature, this is actually where the saddle clamp fitted in the past. Obviously don't have that anymore, but we basically allowed us to test back to back. You know, do we need this little bit? It turns out it doesn't actually make a very big difference. So we remove it, you save an awful lot of carbon fibre, that saves weight. You can invest that weight into making a stiff and stable frame elsewhere. Another cool design feature that you might have noticed with this bike is the fact that this isn't kind of faired, as it were. And this again was something we actually tested back to back in the wind tunnel. We actually added a 3D printed piece onto this. And we found in the real world it made a very small difference. In theory the fairing's ever so slightly faster, but not out of the kind of bounds of error with the wind tunnel. However, that is also that you have to run a tyre that's very tight clearance, and part of the Reacto 5 is that we've actually got much more tyre clearance than ever. So we've got clearance for 32mm tyres, but with 5mm clearance all around the tyre on that. So it means that, yeah, you can run a very modern tyre. But to go back to my original point, you need to run the tyre very, very close to the frame to get the real aero benefits from having this faired thing, and that restricts tyre choice, which in the real world is not that handy, because if you want to go and ride the Paris-Roubaix, like the old Reacto has won, you might want a bigger tyre. If you're riding a different race, you might want a thinner tyre. So that kind of aero benefit isn't always guaranteed. So it makes more sense to remove this big old chunk of carbon. That saves a bit of weight, adds a tiny little bit of comfort, you know, because it's now moving here, and also it's quite a distinctive design. The next thing we should move on to is handlebars. I'll flash up on screen now the new CW one-piece Cockpit. It's quite a distinctive design, and to get to that shape, the width, the flare on it, so it actually has a 17.5-degree flare on it, so narrow over the tops, while giving you still good control when you're in drops. So we actually tested that with World Tour team riders, because we want to find out how extreme can you go before the bike isn't really stable or rideable or safe. The UCI kind of spoiled things here for us, because they invented this rule, which is, you may be familiar, the width that this needs to sit in between the hoods and then also at the drops. So some of the bars fitted to the top end models, the CW one-piece Cockpits, are UCI legal, so naughty us. However, this test rig is really cool. Again, it weighs a little bit, but it is rideable, and that's what we did with it. These pieces slide in and out, and you can also adjust the flare here in and out like that. It's a bit stiff. Pull that out, and it just means that we can have a bar that's rideable, if a bit heavy, and the riders could check out the positions and see what they're happy with. Okay, how much is too much? You know, what sort of flare actually feels really good? Where's that sweet spot? So by using this, again, we could test it in the real world, and also with aero tester and whatnot, to actually see the gains. And as I mentioned, the Tour test protocol, which is what us and pretty much everyone else uses to benchmark their bikes, that doesn't include anything for having an arms on the bikes. It's just too difficult to set up. So this Cockpit, if you do factor in the position that you can get in onto the bike, so have your arms narrow together, that actually makes a really, really big difference. Obviously I'm not going to give numbers out for that for obvious reasons, because it's not really repeatable. But yeah, we found in the real world testing that we've done that that makes a significant gain. So I think that rounds it all out, but I hope you've enjoyed this tech deep dive. If you've got any more questions, because I'm sure I've not covered everything, leave them in the comments down below, and we'll get our engineers to answer them within reason.